Welcome back to Tiff Talks Podcast. This is your host, Tiffany Marie Davis. We have your co-host, Miss Ferris C. And we have a very special guest, Miss Felice Herrig. I am so excited to have her on. She's a dear friend of mine. But I will give you a little bit about her background. So Felice Herrig, aka the Little Bulldog, is a professional MMA fighter. Felice has been fighting for 18 years. She started off as a kickboxer and a boxer and accumulated professional kickboxing titles. In 2007, she was on her very first all-women's fighting reality show, Fight Girls, on the Oxygen channel. In 2008, she co-hosted a local MMA show called COMBATWIRE. And in 2009, she competed on Chuck Norris's World Combat League on the Versus channel. Then she made her transition into the MMA in 2009. Seeing that she was already a professional kickboxer, she had to start out in MMA as a professional, even though she had no grappling background. And in 2010, she was one of 2 girls to be featured in her first video, Game with Fighters as Themselves, Supremacy MMA. I'm gonna let Miss Felice take it from here and go ahead and finish your story because I know there's a lot more that we get to add into this. So welcome to the show, Felice.
Hi, yeah, I didn't know you were gonna read off all that. You could have just, really small bullet points. When you asked for a bio, I was like, okay, where do I start? Where do I finish? I guess I could have made it more simplified for you.
No worries. I love it. I love it. But go ahead and pick it up where I left off because I know a lot has changed, in the last few years.
Oh, well, basically I've just been fighting for 18 years. I have over 60 fights combined with amateur, professional boxing, kickboxing, MMA. I fight in the UFC. I was the very first. So they first signed the bantamweight division, and then next came the strawweight division. So women have only been in the UFC for like 6 or 7 years. So I'm in the first round of girls. And then, more recently, I've just had my second knee surgery.
Yeah, so I want to get into that because that's actually how I know you. So just a little fun fact, everyone. Felice and I were sponsored with All Max Nutrition. I was a top IFBB bikini pro competing, and then here comes Felice, just full of my life. I loved her from the minute I met her. We bonded, we clicked, and this was almost a decade ago, so a lot has changed. The UFC wasn't even a division for women quite yet, so she really worked herself up through that ladder. So I want to talk about like how you started. Have you been fighting in martial arts since you were a little girl?
No, I actually always, so I have 5 kids in my family and we never had any money. So I was always that girl, that kid who could do so much athletically, and people would be like, oh, you should be on the gymnastics team. Oh, you should be on the soccer team. You're so good. And I was like, that embarrassed little kid, like, my parents don't have money for that, and so I always really wanted to do something athletically. I was really good at track, but I didn't love it. I just did track because that was the only sport that didn't cost money. So I was always like really fast. I was a good jumper. But gymnastics was my love. I love gymnastics. So it was an option to do it as a gym class my freshman year. And so I did it. And the first day I learned a backflip, flip-flop. I was doing a tumbling pass, round-up flip-flop, backflip. The coach was like, I thought you'd never been in gymnastics. And I was like, I haven't. So she made me join the team. I broke my arm my freshman and sophomore year, bone ripped out of my skin, shattered my radius and my ulna. Then I could have kept going with either track and gymnastics in high school. And I just decided, because my parents, didn't have money, I got a job. So every day after school, I was working at Outback Steakhouse. I pretty much worked full-time job during high school. And I was always really sad that I never got to compete like in athletics. So kickboxing was like something that I could still compete in. So every day, so it was my senior year, I was paying for all my own shit. And I started at a just taking kickboxing classes, and all the fighters were like getting ready for like nationals or regionals. And I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to dedicate my life to kickboxing and fighting. And And I did, and I never looked back. And there was nothing for women. And everybody be like, why are you doing this? You're never going to make any money. And this is never going to be a career. And I was just like, now I'm like, I told you so. So I always just believed. And I think that's like a testament that like when you're doing what you feel like you're called to do or you're meant to do, and you just believe. And a lot of people always want to say, oh, you can't do that, or like doubt you, or like crush, like step on your dreams. And like, you kind of have to be like, whatever, like I'm going to do me. And yeah, so I did me.
No, I love that. Cause here's the thing, like and when I was talking to Stitch Duran about this as well, is you just have to go through the pain of, you know, the people and things and negative comments that are made on the way up. And what mindset, because obviously like we're not born with that type of determination, focus, unstoppableness. There's so many things that we develop, especially through fighting and through martial arts. However, like getting through, you know, the naysayers without that type of knowledge, what was your mindset? Or did you have parents or people help push you along the way? Like what was it for you that helped you get through that mindset?
My mindset was actually because I came from nothing and I always wanted to do something big, but it was like, you know, we never went on family vacations. We never had birthday parties. We never went to restaurants. So I knew that if I wanted to make something of myself, like it was all about me. So I was just so determined to do something with my life that it really never mattered what other people said, because they didn't know where I came from, and they didn't, you know, I feel like having nothing like really made me like strive to just, I don't know, like I said, like I had to have a good work ethic because nothing was ever handed to me. And I never had people who were like, oh, you're good at this, let me help you. Oh, let me give you money. Yes, I would love to pay for your gymnastics lessons, you know? So for me, it was just like, that was the only option. So what people had to say didn't really matter to me.
That's powerful, because that's what it is when you can come from nothing and experience that come from nothing to catapult you into choosing a different lifestyle. And it's not easy to do. And really it's having that choice of, okay, I'm just going to be determined and I'm just going to do what I feel is best, because that was naturally inside of you. And that's something where you tap in, right? So it's like, that was just your natural, I call them gems. Like it's your natural gem inside of you. And like, who would have thought you were just naturally good at everything? It sounded like anything you put your mind to, you accomplished and kicked its ass. That's just kind of what I'm gathering from. Jumping is not easy. My husband is a state jumper for Utah, so I know what that requires. And that's not easy. Gymnastics is not easy. And then you just stumbled into kickboxing, and to be one of the best 115 pounders in the world, like that's not easy. So, you know, I really commend you for that. But I do love the message that you have behind all of this, is that you've completely come from nothing into something. And when everybody else and everything else failed you, you didn't fail you. And that's kind of like our catchphrase now, Fairs.
Well, I mean, too, it's true. I think a lot of it is knowing what you're good at and kind of believing in it. And I always knew, like, especially just because growing up, like maybe not having, you know, being in sports, because, you know, like I said, my parents couldn't afford it, but everything I did athletically, I was really good at, and people would always like try to encourage me to be in it. So getting into kickboxing, I knew that I was going to be good because I was always strong. I was always fearless. You know, I was flexible. That really matters for, you know, kickboxing. Well, it kind of does, like agility or whatever, but like I knew I was going to be good. And even the most people can be good, but if you don't put in that hard work, it doesn't matter. And I knew that I was going to work hard. Like that's all I've ever done is like, I'm a very obsessive person. So it's worked out in my favor.
No, I like that, because you put it into an outlet. Like you put it into whether it's a healthy outlet, if you think about it. So
that is true.
At least you're obsessive in the right area. That's what it takes to be great. And that's what it takes to be, you know, tap into your greatness of constant repetitive practice. And that for me is a big nugget that I'm taking away from you right now, is that all jokes aside, yes, it's obsessiveness, but every single day you went to work, every single day you put the practice in. And when I mentor people, whatever avenue that you take, you know, whether it's professional fighting or, you know, go start a small business, or, you know, even Sarah, she has a really cute content and beyond that she's putting her name behind, that where it's creation for social media. She tapped into that because it's a passion, but it's her skill. But the only way to develop that is to do something every single day that requires practice and obsessiveness to master that skill, trait, or gift that you naturally know that you have, and you just don't give up, right? So,
and again, the negative people and the naysayers will always like almost like make fun of you and be like make fun of your obsessiveness.
Oh yeah.
You know, and like act like it's such a bad thing. Oh, you don't have time for this or that because you're too obsessed with making something of yourself. And it's like, well, what's wrong with that? What do? Drink beer every weekend? Like, I don't, you know, that's an obsession too. It's called alcoholism.
Exactly. So what, I guess, if you could give one piece of advice to people who do deal with naysayers, because at the end of the day, it is really, really challenging. Like, it does affect you. You know, words do hurt. You know, sticks and stones may break my bones, but you know, you can say that. However, it's not really the case sometimes. You know, what would be your one piece of advice to people who do have those type of negative people in their life or negative naysayers?
It's actually really easy. It's like so simple. And the makeup artist Susie from the UFC said this to me, and I'll never forgot it. She said, "Have you ever met a hater doing better than you?" Boom! And it's so true, because people who are doing something with their life and like spending time to like better themselves or their career or whatnot don't have time to like ridicule other people. Like, those types of people usually lift other people up. Right. And you want to surround yourself with those types of people. So if there are like those naysayers or the haters, it's like, are they really affecting your life? Because those are not people you want to hang out with. Those are not people you want to be around with. They're not people that are going to build you up. They're there to tear you down because they're sad that they're not doing anything with their lives, because maybe they don't have, you know, a lot of people are fear. Fear is like the biggest emotion that like holds people back. And so it's like, those people are so fearful or are lazy or whatnot. So they feel like they have to bring down people who are doing good to like make themselves feel better. So it's really that simple.
That there is so many nuggets in that. I hope you guys, yes, nuggets and gems. But going back to your Ferris, if you want to take it from here, because I know you probably got a lot to say on that.
I mean, no, it's I think it's great that, you know, she says that, and I've heard that many times before, like, you'll never find a hater that's doing better than you. And I think, you know, being a fighter, and, you know, I've watched many of your fights, and it's, you know, to be in that kind of spotlight, and you're always going to have, like, I like to call them trolls. Oh, you have like those internet trolls, and you have just trolls in life. And, you know, I've never really understood it. Like, why does it matter that you have to say something negative, or, you know, and it's always somebody behind a screen or behind a phone or, so it's, I really, really like that. And, you know, Felice, you're just so joyful, and you're just so like giddy and uppity, and,
Felice Navidad.
Well, when you see you fight, like, I'm like, nope. You know, I've told my husband many times. He's always like, oh, would you fight that girl? Like, we'll be watching a fight. And I'll be like, no. As soon as I got into the octagon, I would like fake fall and be like, oh, tap out. Like, there's no way. Like, no. And the fact that you're just so joyful, like, I love it. So that just also proves, like, you know, never judge a book by its cover. You know, you got to put the haters away, and you just got to do what you got to do. And I love that, like, you literally came from nothing. Because it's just so inspiring to show people, like, hey, I wasn't handed shit, and look where I'm at. So I love everything that you talked about. I think that's great.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you're watching the YouTube, you guys have to see Felice. Like, she just looks incredible. Her hair is absolutely beautiful, golden brown. And I'm like, it's just like a whole new person. I'm loving this right now. And she's like, I finally can do what I want to my hair because it's not going to get pulled out in a fight.
Yeah.
So you guys see it. Head over to the YouTube. She's absolutely beautiful. Let's talk about these knee surgeries, because I know that you have been going through, you know, some ups and downs with that. It took you out with a lot of things you had on your plate with, you know, opportunities that are coming up that are now on hold until you heal. And I know the first round of you had a couple of knee surgeries, and the first round didn't go as planned. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So if anybody is, you know, has suffered an injury or needs to get surgery, not all surgeons are the same. So do your due diligence, research. For me, who's a professional athlete, I should have done better research and found somebody, a surgeon that works with professional athletes. You know, that was my bad, but I didn't know any better. You know, I didn't think, in my mind, I'm like, oh, surgeons are the same. He's gonna do a knee surgery. So basically, I was training for a fight, and I was shooting him for a double leg. And you know, when you shoot him for a double leg, then you cut the corner. My foot got stuck, and my foot didn't travel with my body, so I tore my ACL, MCL, LCL, PCL, and meniscus. So my surgeon did a microfracture on me. He took tissue from my hamstring to make the ACL graft, and repaired my meniscus. It was a mess. But anyways, it was never getting better. It was supposed to be a 6 to 9 month recovery. And I always felt like, you know, like the normal progression of anything is like you slowly start feeling better. But as I slowly started feeling better and could do more, I would go like 3 steps back for every step forward, with pain, with everything, with inflammation. I was getting bone contusions. My surgeon, when I would ask him, why am I having so much pain? Why is this happening? I don't know. He literally said, I don't know. And
that's not good.
Yeah.
I don't know what's wrong with you, ma'am. I did the surgery, but I guess we'll have to see what happens.
Talk about no freak out.
Yeah, well, but then the worst part is you don't know any better, and you just think this is a normal progression. Like this is just the healing process. So anyways, nothing got better. I tried everything. I finally just set up I was supposed to see a surgeon in like March. I set up the appointment, but I was on like a 1 month waiting list. And of course, by the time my appointment came around, because of COVID, they were only taking emergency patients. So the UFC, in the meantime, like it's been a year now, and it comes up to the year mark, and the UFC is like wanting me to fight because I was supposed to be out for 6 to 9 months, and it was a year. And I was like, I am still so far from being able to fight. But I took a fight thinking that, well, it was supposed to be a 6 to 9 month recovery, so hopefully it's just going to keep getting better. And again, in my training camp, my knee kept getting worse and worse, and I got an MRI. You know, there was just too much inflammation, they said, but everything is fine. So I took a fight, and I lost, but I almost knew I was going to, because I was just hoping, adrenaline will kick in and you won't feel anything. You'll be able to, adrenaline did not kick in. And so then I saw a surgeon after that to get stem cells in California. And he was the first doctor, or first anyone who could give me answers. He was like, well, with athletes like you, like when you like have a traumatic fall like that, your post-lateral corner gets stretched and it never goes back. So it causes instability in the knee, which caused my meniscus to re-tear, which wasn't on the MRI, or I don't know what I'm looking for, but the radiologist didn't catch it on the MRI. And so basically I went in and he did stem cells, but then I flew to California to have surgery done by him. I got my meniscus repaired that got re-injured because my first surgeon, if he just tightened up the post-lateral corner, I would have been fine, and I would have recovered fine, and I wouldn't have had to have another surgery. I would have healed properly, blah, blah, blah. And so there I am. And now I'm 8 weeks out, and I feel so much better 8 weeks out than I did 6 months after my first surgery. So now I'm on the road to recovery, girl. We're going to do this.
Been there way too many times.
Yeah. It's really hard to talk about, like, it's like, because it's so negative, like, especially now, like, I'm trying so hard to, I feel like if we think negative and we say negative things, it's almost like a spiral effect.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's hard for me to even talk about the surgery because it was such a negative experience that I feel like talking about it puts me in a negative frame of mind, and I'm like saying bad things and saying negative things. And I feel like I got this, my friend Carla gave me this book after I knew that I was needing a second surgery. It's called The Power of the Subconscious Mind. I would recommend it to anyone because honestly, it like changed my life. Like I started reading it a little bit before the first surgery. And then, you know, when I was laid up in bed after the second surgery, and it's like changed my whole thought process. But my life since then has been like so great, like really great. You know, it's almost like the law of attraction or whatnot. And I don't know if it's just, you know, who knows, like when you are happier and more positive, it's almost like you're like a magnet, like things that you want in your life just like come to you.
Yeah. Everything you're saying right now is so dead on. I have so many notes. Looking back at how you stayed resilient, that was my next question. That is how you were able to overcome and conquer, was you just nose dove into one, you know, your girlfriend, Carla. What is it? The same Carla that I think we're talking about?
Yeah. As far as yeah.
Okay. So another female fighter. She's, you know, also one of the best in the division. Now she's surrounded herself with incredible positive people. So I think that's a huge part of the healing process, whether it's, you know, a traumatic event from a surgery or a traumatic event from a detox from a family member or someone you need out of your life, or just anything, right? So that's one thing that I'm taking away from that, is that you surrounded yourself with someone and people that were going to help keep you on your positive track to get out of this funky state. Because I can relate to you. I mean, that's why I didn't pursue going into professional fighting, is because the healing process, the injuries, and then that whole down spiral of you don't know what's next. And then you're caught into this, you know, this doctor just screwed up. I mean, literally said, I don't know. That's never good. That's never good.
Yeah.
Doctor says, I don't know. And, you know, the one thing that I'm hearing you say is that you're fearless. You're absolutely fearless. And you said that earlier in the podcast, but I want to dig into that a little bit more because, you know, you went through this and you, I'm sure, fell into somewhat of depression, just because that's naturally what happens when we have, you know, something that's out of our control. For people that are so controlled in their space, you in a sense always have a grasp on what's happening next. And this one was just completely out of your hands, and you had to kind of like surrender, is what I'm hearing you say. And you surrendered, let the process go to work, and you were in a fearless state from that point forward, it sounds like. And then also throughout your entire career, and how you chose another way. So what I mean by another way is, coming from nothing, you had said that people just succumb to their fears, but you've always stayed fearless, and even in this state. So what does that require? What does that look like for the average individual?
It's not, I feel like sometimes you look at somebody and you're like, oh my gosh, you're so strong. And, you know, you have to, it's like, it's not easy. You have to like, I just realized it's like, there's certain things that are out of my control. I think I've always tried to control everything so much. And like you said, you have to surrender. And I think once I realized that it was like, I'm going to do everything that's in my control, and I'm not going to worry about what's not in my control. It just helped a lot. And, but I have gone through like periods of time where I was, you know, super depressed or whatnot. But then I was like, dude, this is what's going on in my life. Like I can't, like, I have no choice but to like be fearless and to press on. It's like, it's almost like you have to believe in something greater, you know, just like when I was younger and I was into kickboxing, like I always believed that everything would work out and that I would, be successful as a fighter, and I didn't know how. And and that's the same thing I'm doing now with my injury. It's like, yeah, I went through some shit, but it's definitely made me stronger. And I think that having to deal with things and overcome them is what makes you more fearless, because you're like, I got this. And that like you're not like, I'm not a snowflake. I haven't been dealt like the easiest like hand in life, but like I've chose to kind of like play my cards and not, again, like be more positive about everything rather than negative, like, oh, woe is me, why is this happening to me? It's like, I'm gonna eat, like I'm eating healthy because I want my body to recover. I'm doing all my physical therapy, like everything that's in my control I'm doing, and it motivates me because I have a goal in mind. I'm gonna get back, I'm gonna be strong, I'm gonna fight again. But I'm also like, I like the idea of like being an inspiration to other people who are going through like hard times. It doesn't have to be an injury, it could be anything in your life. Knowing that like, yeah, you can be fearless too. We all can be fearless, like every single one of us. Like, you just have to make the choice to accept what you're going through and be positive rather than negative.
Yeah, and what I hear you say is belief, and I know that that's not easy. There's one thing to say that you believe, but then there's another thing to have the actual belief behind it, right? So when you say things are magnetic towards you and people are, good things are coming to you, but it's because you're in your true belief that you are worthy and you deserve this, right?
Yeah.
So what is the difference, and how did you tap into that? Because I think it would be nice for our listeners to hear it from someone else, because I do speak about this, but there's a different type of belief. There's, yeah, I believe in that, but then there's true believing. And when you truly believe, that's when that law of attraction really comes in. So what is that for you, and how did you tap into that?
I think it's just faith and the unseen, unknown. Reading for me helps. That's like very like meditative for me. But I told you, like, I read like The Power of the Subconscious Mind, and that's just kind of, even, I've read the book, The Secret and whatnot, and, and a lot of people look at that stuff and they think of it as like, oh, hocus pocus, whatever. So if you don't believe in that, if you don't believe in like the laws of attraction, if you don't believe in like being positive and all that, you're already like not believing. You have to believe in something, whether it's a religion, whether it's meditation, whether you have to believe in something. And there's no way for me to get people to believe in something they don't. When you're a kid, you believe in Santa Claus, and it's like, well, why do you believe in Santa Claus? You just do, you believe, and then all the presents come. Like, I don't know, like, you just you have to surrender, I guess. Yeah, that was like the best like thing I've heard you say, is just like that word is just like surrender, like, because what do you have to lose? Like, it's like you could stay in a rut, you can stay in a negative place, things aren't going your way. It's like, what do you have to lose by just believing in something wholeheartedly,
I think that's great that, you say that, because it's, you went through these surgeries, you're a fighter, and you're just like, all right, like, I just have to give it up and just figure out like another way. So now that like COVID has happened, you've had this surgery, you're going through physical therapy and doing, whatever it takes. Do you plan on fighting again soon? Anytime? Is that something that you want to do?
Yes, that's my goal. Like, that's the whole reason why I'm trying so hard and I'm working so hard on my physical therapy. Like, I want to get back to, my normal self and being able to fight again. And I also, again, I love it from the perspective of like the naysayers again, like, because people think that an injury and time off of something, like time off of fighting and an injury and setbacks is like, it gives you ring rust and it makes you a worse fighter. And but I feel like it's the opposite. I feel like it makes you stronger. And I want to get back out there and I want to show people, hey, yeah, I've been through some shit. Like, it sucked, but I overcame it. And look at me now. I'm back on top. I'm just as good as I was before, if not better.
I love that. And with all the fighters that are out there now, and I don't know if you want to call anybody out, who would you want to fight first? Like, if you had to choose, like, if you're like, all right, because I know some fighters, they're super aggressive. They're like, oh, I'm calling you out, dude. And it's like, all right, calm down. But like, if you were like with your first fight back or your first couple of fights back, who is somebody that you would want to fight? I mean, would you want to go for the title again, or what would you want to do?
See, here's my thing is that I've been in the top 10 my entire career, minus, I slowly dropped as I was inactive. And then when I came back, I was still injured, and they gave me another 15-0, like, fighter, like, who's super, super tough. I almost just want, like, I don't want to call it a tune-up fight, but I want to, like, get my confidence back. I don't feel like, I've earned my spot to be in that top 10, but I've also, like, coming off of, 2 knee surgeries, not fighting, like, I would like to kind of ease back in and work my way back up. So I would like a not top 10 fighter as opposed to a top 10 fighter. And a lot of it too is just because, it's like the pressure too. And because then there's no way, like, once you're there, there's no way, like, there's no going back. Like, I worked up to being a top 10 fighter. So then every fight is super, super tough. Like, you have to always fight a top 10. So it's like, it's more on your body, and you get paid, like, your pay is like, you make more money if you win a fight than if you lose a fight. But it's like the chances of winning a fight when you're fighting another person that's like, as it's going to be a really close fight and you're going to take a lot more damage, is like, crap, that was a really tough fight, and it was like a split decision, and I made half the money because I lost a split decision. So it almost like want to get my confidence back in, fight somebody who's ranked lower so I can build back up to the top 10. And I don't know if that sounds like a bad, like, mindset, but hey, I'm just being honest. Like,
that's what this is all about, girl.
What?
I said, that's what this is all about. Tiff Talks is real raw. What our goal and mission is here at Tiff Talks is we want people to know the real side of the good, the bad, and coming from this space is more relatable for people to understand. Like, you're human. You have the same fears. You have the same, we're all the same in a sense, but we all get to choose based off of mindset, circumstances, and what works, what doesn't work. Failing forward, that's what I hear you say loud and clear, that, every fail that you've had, you've overcome and you've conquered. And it's very, Felice, I love you. I've loved you since I met you almost a decade ago, and you're still the same Felice, but in my opinion, a better version of where you started and where you're going, and your mindset is impeccable. I'm so proud of you, Felice. So, you've had survival mode in high gear since you were a young girl, and you're still in that space of overcoming, conquering. And what was your biggest, I would say, fear? Because I know you said you're fearless, but what was your biggest fear that you overcame during this whole journey, including your knee surgery? Was that potentially not being able to fight again? Was that, whatever came up for you? Did you feel like your career was over as you knew it, or what came up for you during that time?
Gosh, it's I get so emotional. Like, I really want to cry. I might cry a little. So sorry. Just thinking about it. I think it's just because, like, the biggest fear for me was I was, like, super motivated after the first surgery, and I had, like, a goal in mind because it was, like, 6 to 9 months. But then when things started not, like, I was supposed to be better by this time, and, like, I think not having answers was the hardest thing, because it made me feel like, what if I never get better? Because doctors can't give me, like, there's obviously something wrong, but nobody's giving me answers. And people who know more than me can't give me answers. So I almost felt like, not even that I wasn't going to be able to fight again, well, which I did. And I felt like my career was over, because I'm like, I'm in, like, the tough, like, such a tough sport, and you can't, like, my body had to be, like, has to get back to where it was before, like, the injury and before surgery for me to even be able to continue to have a career in fighting. And so I was scared that my knee was never going to get better, and that I was always going to be dealing with all this pain and whatnot. And even just on a, I've always been super into fitness and just a healthy lifestyle. And I couldn't even like be active enough to where, you know, I could achieve my fitness goals. Even if I never fought again, like I still like, I couldn't run without having the sharpshooting pain. I couldn't do my boxing, and like every time I would bend and bob and weave, like I'd have pain. So I was just afraid that I was going to be like, I'm like, great, this is like what all those older people talk about when they've been in sports, like it ruined my body and now I'm fat. So there was a lot of different levels, but also I think the hardest part for me was knowing what I've had to overcome to finally be successful in my career and finally make money. And I'm like, wow, it sucks that now I'm here, and now like all that hard work just went away, and now what am I going to do with my life?
Yeah, I honestly commend you for that, because I know that feeling of, okay, now what? I feel as if I'm starting over from scratch. And you said that you worked yourself up all the way to the top 10, and now you're like, okay, when I come back, like I definitely don't want to fight someone in the top 10, because I want to make sure that coming in, I can at least, you know, go through the same type of I mean, what's the word that I'm looking for? Like the same type of athleticism that I know that I can do, but my body won't physically let me. So
well, it wasn't even about like, I'm speaking on like, if like the UFC is not like, you know, like in order to even stay in the UFC or even fight professionally as an MMA fighter, like I wouldn't even, like my last fight, like, which it's kind of an asterisk for me. I don't really count it because I had, you know, torn meniscus, and it was just like, whatever, like, but I knew that I was not like the way before the second surgery, like the way my body was feeling, like I was like, I'm never really going to be able to fight again at my full potential. And then people are just going to think I'm old and washed up and I'm a joke. And it's not because like, you know, it's because like something's going on with my knee and nobody can tell me, but because nobody could tell me, I was just like, okay, then you're telling me that there's nothing wrong with it, that I have this inflammation every day and I have to ice like 6 times a day to get through training, and I take 6 ibuprofen a day, which you're telling me is, oh, that's normal. And then even before I like had this last surgery, I had to get, you know, my blood work done, and they're like, your liver enzymes are really high. And it's like, yeah, because I took 6 ibuprofen a day for like 12 weeks so I could get through a training camp for a fight, which is not normal. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it's like you got to build yourself back up, and it's like, you want to make sure that this time, like, because I mean, injuries happen all the time. I mean, whether it's breaking your nose, I mean, I would just be so scared someone would like hit my face. I'd be like, oh my God, like my face is ruined. But it's whether it's your arms, whether it's your knees, whether it's your ankles, you know, you want to build yourself up to where it's like, okay, like I know I'm solid. Like you're probably still going to have pain. You're probably going to have pain the rest of your life, but you want to build yourself up to where it's like, okay, regardless of an injury, Felice is here. I don't give a shit. Like, what's good? Let's go. Because you see that a lot with fighters. I mean, we watch fights all the time, and it's like you see some of them. I'm like, damn, we haven't seen that person, you know, in a long time. You know, talk about boxing. We watched, you know, the Tyson fight over the weekend, and I was like, how old are these people? I'm like, and they're boxing? Like, this is crazy. And I'm like, damn, like they look pretty good. Like, but despite like they have injuries, they have pain, they have all of these things. And, you know, it was such a funny, like, boxing thing over the weekend. I was like, this has got to be like a joke. Like, I was just watching, I was like, Snoop's on here. I'm like, what is going on? Like, I don't even understand half the time what's happening anymore because of COVID and everything. But
we've had a YouTuber.
Yeah, I was like, no, my husband's like, hey, he's like, you know, Jake Paul. And I was like, the YouTuber? I was like, he's a fighter? And I'm like, stop it, you guys. And I felt really bad because that dude,
he called out McGregor, by the way, and I'm like, okay, calm down. I mean, he's a retired NBA player that he knocked out.
It was bad. I mean, he got lucky, first of all, with that, but calling out McGregor, I don't think is a good idea.
But he called out McGregor. I'm like, do you want to die? Like, do you want to? McGregor does not care.
That's a good idea. But
Against Mayweather, like, stop. Mayweather even said he definitely gave him a run for his money. So I'm like, you're insane. But anyway, that's totally off topic. Going back to this, Felice, I personally feel that I know that you're growing this because there's something on the horizon that's coming because of your mindset and what you set yourself up for, how your life had started out from, not having anything to create something. You're on the brink of your breakthrough. So I'm excited to see what's next. Having that mindset that you have, that never give up mentality, that fearless mentality, that is obviously why you are one of the best fighters in the world in your division. So, paying into all of that, when is your next, are you training now? Are you going through the motions of everything to get you back to where you left off? Or
I mean, that's yes and no. I'm 8 weeks out of surgery. So the first 6 to 8 weeks, like I just started to be able to fully weight bear on my knee, like off of crutches, like this week, cause that's like people don't realize like the injury of like ACL, meniscus, like tendons and stuff isn't like bones. Like it takes a lot longer.
yes.
So yeah, I do my physical therapy every day, and it wasn't until this week that I can start easing back. Like when I'll be boxing, but I got to make sure I wear my knee brace, and I can start doing weight training. And it's a slow progression. It's almost like with being in the fitness and doing the IFBB and whatever. But like it's like realistic, like let's say you're 300 pounds, you can't come in and work out for a week and eat healthy for a week and expect to have like the body that you had like during fitness competitions. It's a slow like progression. Like you've got to work hard at it. You've got to stay consistent. And so that's what I'm doing with my knee. It's like, yes, I'm working towards that. Of course I'm working towards it, but there's also like the physical progression of things that like I have to build back up to being able to do, like you have to just build, like you literally lose all your muscle. You go into surgery and every single muscle that you had in your leg is gone. You got to work that back up. You got to work range of motion. And it's like, it's a process. So now this week that I got clearance from my doctor, start easing back into normal things. I'm going to be boxing this week. I'm going to be, weight training, all that. So yes, but there's still things that I'm still limited.
Comeback. That's what I hear. That's all I hear is the comeback. And I know because you're so determined, you're so unstoppable, you're fearless, all of it. I know. I'm calling it right now on Tiff Talks podcast. Felice Herrig, comeback of her life, and she's going to have the best fights of her life. I just know it. She had a season, you guys. Nothing is taking her down. Woman, and she's coming back stronger than ever. So that's what I hear loud and clear, and especially because of your resiliency, tenacity, and what you're doing from a mental capacity, because at the end of the day, this is all a choice and mental toughness that you're overcoming. So I'm very, very excited to see what's coming. Speaking of, a few things that are new, we're going to go into, you finally have embraced this foot fetish.
I knew where this was going.
She just put it on there for you. I mean, she's explained prior to us coming on board, like the differences in foot fetishes and like if you do your foot a certain angle, like, I mean, I remember, even just a few years ago and now people are like, let me smell your feet and sniff your feet, lick your feet. I'm like, really? Are they serious? So Felice is known for her feet, and through her fan base, I know you started, what was it, OF or OnlyFans?
OnlyFans. Link is in the bio. No,
OnlyFans foot page.
And it's PG rated for Felice, okay? She's just showing her beautiful foot for everybody that might have an account.
But 1.6 thousand followers and 1.6, yeah. Like in 2 weeks, I've only had it for 2 weeks. I sell you socks and people eat them up like crazy. Sell them for $100 each, and people are. I sell a pair of socks every day.
That you've worn?
Used socks.
Oh shit!
It's crazy. They want them and they want you to work out. And they want to be all smelly. It's crazy because I'm like, I was gonna get rid of these socks anyway. You want to pay me for them?
Oh my gosh. You're telling me I can sell you smelly socks?
I mean, you're not Felice Herrig, Ferris, but I'm sure that someone wanted to see your feet.
Check out my OnlyFans.
If you
I'm
have
just
nice
kidding.
feet like me, people will buy your used socks.
You know, I appreciate the hustle though. I think that's great. I mean, obviously, like, you had to do whatever you had to do. I mean, you're not fighting COVID, all of this stuff. And it's like, all right, you're just leveraging what you have. You're like, all right, well, people love my feet, so I might as well show my feet. So, like, do you have like professional photo shoots, or do you just do it yourself and upload them?
No, I definitely do professional photo shoots. I feel like it's an investment. You know, I'm making good money doing this, and I want to have the nice feet. And I take like I kind of pay attention to what people want. Like there's a pose called the giantess pose. So basically the camera, like the perspective is the camera's on the floor or the photographer's laying on the floor basically. And like you put your foot like down like by the camera. So it's like they see like this foot like stomping them. Like that's like a thing.
They can almost touch and feel it. Like it's like an exaggerated picture because it's like in your face. They're like, yes.
They love that. They love like, if you lick your feet, that's a thing, tickling the feet. Some people like dirt, some like literally like dirty feet. Like it's crazy because in the past, like when I've done photo shoots or whatever, I'm like, I can't post this picture, my foot's all dirty. And then I realized being on here that some people really like dirty feet. And I'm like, oh God.
That's like my nightmare.
Honestly, feet, I just can't with feet.
Like, I can't either. Like
some people have really pretty feet. You know, like my best friend's got really pretty feet. Tiffany's feet are actually pretty nice. From what I can see on camera, your feet are great. But it's like, and I'm sorry, I love my husband, but
Well, men have dirty, hairy feet. I'm not into hairy feet. How many women have
it's not even that. It's just some feet. I'm just like, I mean, I hate my feet. There's no way I would make a cent off my feet. People will be like, yeah, try again, ma'am. Like, not, they're like little mini corn dogs, okay? Not happening. Not. It's not. So
I just want to know what a mini corn dog really looks like. That's not like the visual stuff there is.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is.
Show us.
No, I'm not doing it. You guys, I will not expose myself.
Corn dog.
I'll do a lot of things, but that is not one of them. So I applaud you in the foot department. I think that's incredible. And I'm going to shift it a little bit. I know OnlyFans, it's, you know, that's great. You're making money doing that. And I have her link in the show notes if you guys want to subscribe to her feet. Didn't you make a children's book?
I did. I wish I had one on hand. So so this is a crazy story too. Talk about like never giving up your dreams or it's never too late. So my brother died when I was 7. My dad is an amazing, amazing illustrator. Like his gift has always been art, like drawing, like whatever. He can do everything. And after my brother died, you know, he got depressed and, you know, wasn't himself or whatever. And he never drew again, ever. And during the quarantine, you know, because I can draw too. I get that from my dad, but I'm not as good as my dad. My dad's amazing. And since my ring name is the Little Bulldog, you know, when I got injured, I really wanted to do a children's book about a little bulldog who gets injured. She's a boxer and she injures her foot, her leg, you know, and she's so sad that she can't do all the fun things that, you know, she can't do what she loves. And her mom, who's an otter, says, make lemons into lemonade. There's so many other fun things you can do with your life and learn new things with your friends and have fun. So the Little Bulldog does things in the book that I actually did during my time off. Like I love sign language. So I took a lot more sign language classes. So there's a caterpillar in there who has all these hands and he's doing sign language. And my friend Mary owns a chocolate place called Ethereal, and I went and helped her make chocolate. And so I did all these things in this book. And but I got my dad, because of COVID, my dad wasn't working, and I asked him to come draw with me. And he was like, he didn't want to, but he promised me he would. And once he got back to drawing again, he's obsessed and wouldn't stop. And I asked him if he would do the illustrations for the children's book. And now we're already on book 2, and all we do is children's books together.
I think that's amazing. And utilizing, like, you empowered your dad to go back into what he loved. And like you said, he became obsessed and he found his joy again. That's probably so liberating for him. And to be able to come back, and I mean, perfect example, a comeback. That's what we're going to
do.
A comeback. I love it. So and it is the cutest book. You can find it on Amazon. Where is that the only place you have?
No, it's on Barnes and Nobles too. And then a lot of other smaller, like, I feel like it's just, so many people have Amazon that's almost like the easiest to.
Yeah, that's super easy. I do want to, like, I love that you're focusing on the youth, because a lot of where this stems from, and we actually did, a podcast a little bit ago about conscious parenting, and you want to really help your children develop out of a childhood where they don't have to recover from. So you starting a book to help our youth turn lemons into lemonade, I think that's really special. Was that your angle around it, is you really wanted to help the youth develop that mindset?
Well, I mean, with children's books, you have to have like a moral of the story. And for me, it was almost like easier to, like, it was what I was going through. And I just wrote my story in a simplified way that could help like kids and adults, you know what I mean? I almost wanted to tell my story, but do it in a fun, creative way. And it was just, I have like my family, like we all have this artistic background, and with my ring name being the little bulldog, I've always wanted to be a cartoon. But now we're like, after the first book, and my dad's super into it, because I thought that was going to be a one and done. But now we're working on more children's books, some coloring books, some activity books, learning books, like fun ways to like help teach the kids, especially now we think about it more because of a lot of kids aren't at school. So now like they're at home more than ever. So books do help them learn, and I like the old nostalgia of an actual like book, as opposed to like now we're so into technology.
I gotta say, I love that, because it's like I see it, like we're just living in a world of technology, and it drives me nuts not seeing a child just pick up a book. And when I do see it, I am like, I'm on it. I'm like commending that child. I'm, encouraging that child. But this all goes back to parenting. And this might strike a few chords, but a lot of the times, in order to occupy your child, they throw an iPad at you, or go play your game. I'll be back in an hour or 2 hours. Yeah. What is that teaching them, though? That's teaching them to be codependent on technology, versus go crack open a book and really use those comprehension skills. Like reading a book, there's so much value in reading a book. Yeah. You're exercising your brain. You're exercising your vision, you're exercising your comprehension. So that was, for me, everything. I love that you just said that. Now, Felice, I know that I'm going to have you back on this podcast after your comeback.
Yeah.
So I'm calling it now. I know what's going to happen because of how you're showing up and the daily practices that you put in, from mindset to, determination in all areas of your life, empowering your dad to get back into artistry. Like, there's just so much. And you're also helping our youth. I am so proud to call you one of my dear friends. I'm so grateful to have had you on today's podcast. Where can everybody find you? What's coming up?
So easy that I have a super uncommon name. So I'm like, if you Google Felice, you don't even have to put in my last name. I think I'm the first thing that pops up. So, but yeah, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, OnlyFans, Twitter, and everything is just my name, at Felice Herrig, FeliceHerrig. Super simple. Thank you, parents, for giving me this super uncommon name.
Yes, and on OnlyFans, I do know she was doing footprints for people. So you can buy all of her merch there. And you guys, this is serious. Like, this is not at all. we're not joking.
She's really creative with it on there.
She's really embracing what people have been calling her to do. And this has been a very eye-opening podcast for myself as well, because this is where you get to pivot, and you never know what it's going to look like, what opportunity is going to show up, and what you get to embrace from a skill to a foot. You just don't know. And this is where you get to really look at your current life situation, circumstances, and what can you do to pivot? What can you do to capitalize on, you know, a time like now? And what better way than through social media and embracing what people have been calling you to do. So Felice, thank you so much for today. I'm so excited for you and for what's to come. I love you, girl, and we'll